So, DA, do you think there's a reason why it's been 30 years? Like right now, I saw people tweeting, 3 of the 4 teams in the conference finals are no state tax, teams. Or
I never thought of that.
Yeah, or, the pressure of Canada. Or do you think it's just random luck, which also is a viable answer?
I've thought about this a lot.
I know.
And I think there's a lot of contributing factors. I don't think we should minimize some of those things you just mentioned. I mean, you got to do it on paper, right? Stamkos, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Hedman costing less than the core 4 on the Leafs by a few $1 million. That's a big difference. And then you know what those few $1 million get you? They get you Yanni Gord, they get you Palat, they get you Killorn, they get you those other guys. So there are legitimate reasons why I'm sure it's helped. It's kind of funny. We have 4 teams. The most northern team in the Stanley Cup final this year is Las Vegas. Think about that for 1 second. The most northern team, the hockey hotbed of Las Vegas. Yeah. So there might be something to that. There's happenstance. There's decisions are made, and certainly there's going to be some players who won't come to Canada. I worked on Monday night with Keith Yandel, and Keith was he just said, he's a guy who just came out of the dressing room a year ago. This is a guy who knows the pulse of current NHLers. And he's like, there's a lot of guys. I shouldn't say a lot. I don't want to misquote him, but he said there's certainly guys who won't want to play in Canada, whether it's for pressure, whether it's for climate, whether it's for, taxes. There's lots of reasons. So you are going to miss out on some players. So that certainly contributes as well. And there's been some management missteps along the way as well. So there's all sorts of contributing factors. But you're right. The law of averages would say with 7 Canadian teams in a league that's had 30 and then 31 and now 32 teams, every 4 years, every 5 years, you're going to get a Canadian team in the final, and every 4 or 5 years, you're going to get a championship team in Canada. And it just hasn't happened now for a generation of fans. So it is a bit mind-boggling.
So offhand, out of the 4 remaining teams, we have 2 making over $10 million. 2 players?
Yeah,
Jack Eichel and Bobrovsky.
But I do want to step on that because I think if you back it off like a $500,000, like 9.5, there's 7 guys. It's not that I've seen this whole you can't pay top guys, but I don't know that's just sorry to interrupt and take the question from the guest.
No, that's where I'm leaning towards on maybe 1, but you can't have 2.
Sagan is actually the highest paid player in the league this year.
Well, Brian Burke said that. Brian Burke, we were on set a number of times, and he didn't say it wasn't going to work. He just said, we've never seen it work. We've never seen a team with 3 $11 million players. And I took some flack for this from some people, but I'm going to stand by it. If there is a defense for Kyle Dubas and the Leafs management, it was, they've signed these players pre-pandemic. Right now, the expectation was we'd be staring down a $90 million cap, and the league would be littered with guys making, littered is a strong word. There would be 30, 40, 50 guys maybe making $9, $10, $11 million. It wouldn't be extreme. But the cap held flat for 3 years. It's barely gone up now in 5 years, and that's made an $11 million player much more like, wow, that's huge money. It's more extreme than it would have been. So I think that's part of the equation. I stand by that belief, and whether it sounds like a Leaf apologist or not, I don't mind because I do believe that.
The other thing that stands out for me is that I look at Carolina, and maybe we're all in agreement. I don't know. Is that the best blue line out of the Final 4?
Well, it'd be them or Vegas, in my opinion, and they're both exceptional, and that's a great point too. That when I think about the Leafs and maybe some of the issues, they have this incredible skill up front, but maybe it's redundant skill. And I've heard you on your show so many times, both you guys and Sam as well. Will beat skill sometimes, and sometimes you need some of those will guys contributing with the skill guys, and maybe you need some on the back line. And it's not like, I'm not putting this on the Leafs blue line at all, but my point being, it'd be great to have 4 high-end players, but you also have one of that core 4, and Morgan Riley played exceptionally, but to have one of their core 4 guys, as we refer to them, being on the blue line, having Pietrangelo, having Heiskanen, having a Slavin is not a bad thing.
And I'd be the first one to admit at times talked about Tom Dundon, the owner of Carolina, having alligator arms, the ones that don't quite reach the pockets.
Yeah.
And look at his blue line right now with Pesce, Slavin, Brent Burns.
Yeah,
I don't think one of them is making over $5.5 million.
Is that right?
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me.
Yeah, no. I'm telling you that.
Yeah, no, I believe it.
Yesterday, you were talking about Slavin possibly being a front runner for the Conn Smythe when this is all said and done.
That's right.
And
tell your friends.
That's a guy who's I think at $5.3 or $5.4 million.
5.3 for him, 5.28 for Burns. Brady Shea makes 5.2, 4.5 for Goss to spare, 4 for Pesce.
All of a sudden, that Tom Dundon, all used cars salesman type of guy, is looking pretty good right now.
Guys, think about this. This is a team that also, in the last, I think, 5 years, has shed themselves of Tony DeAngelo, Dougie Hamilton, who's the pretty good young defenseman there in Calgary that they traded along with Lindholm.
Hannafin?
Like, this is a team that's gotten rid of some very good blue liners, and they still have this wealth of great guys on the blue line. So there's something to that. Although Kyper, the other side of the equation is, look at the final 4 goalies. Like, to me, if you were to say, well, here are going to be your final 4 goalies, Aiden Hill and Ottinger I really like, obviously, but Bobrovsky, who has been for many years here, it's pretty shocking. And Freddie Anderson, and we don't have to go into the whole Freddie's history in the playoffs. It's pretty shocking that these are the final 4 goaltending standing this year. That's one of the big storylines to me.